Good afternoon, everyone. I'd like to welcome everybody to Capital Discourse. I am your host, Dakota Jones. I am the CEO and executive producer for LD3 Productions. I'd like to welcome you to this show where we will be talking about all of the hot button issues that could be and that will be involved in politics and that could affect your life as a whole. It is our tenet here at LD3 Productions to truly bring back the reality and also bring back the wait, hold off. My coverage. Anybody there? Coverage. Yeah, I'm gonna need some help. I've lost ears. StreamYard's down. Give me a standby cover. Am I out? Our main tenet here to provide quality television production for everyone to consume and also fair and honest production. Uh, Better? All right. Can everybody hear me? Hey, how's everybody doing? Okay. So here at LD3 Productions, we are a broadcasting company that would love to bring back the quality of television, the quality of journalism, the quality of broadcast television overall. We strive to bring you centrist approaches. We strive to bring you the absolute truth. And that is one of the most important things that we feel as though that has been lost in television overall over the years. Those things all being said, we will be running this program, Capital Discourse, every Sunday at 1 p.m. And will be brought to you by a multitude of hosts, but some of my regular hosts will be in every Sunday. And to that, I'd like to bring to the table Jess Wyatt, who comes to us, as well as Richard Cardoza, who will be amongst our regular hosts inside of Capital Discourse. How are you guys doing today?
Doing all right. Thanks for having me.
Yes, thank you for asking. Awesome.
So it's been a really jam-packed month. I mean, really, it's been a very long 6 months for the country, for the world even, with all of the changes, with the new administration, all of the changes inside of how things are ran, how things outside of the world. And we kind of like take the time today to really kind of look at some of those hot button issues. One of them inside of the United States today is going to be uh, immigration. It really has been a really whipsaw effect. We've heard from the beginning of Donald Trump's presidency that he was going to crack down on immigration, and that it would be a very dizzying first 6 months for everybody. And I think that that has held true, and that immigration as a whole has changed how we do things in this country. Uh, and there are some stands that people say is not for them. There are some that would say it's not. It is for them. And we're going to kind of start to break down some of these issues and look at the numbers. We'll look at how things are actually shaping out. And but we really want to kind of look at, overall the tactics within how things are being done. We've not seen anything like this quite yet in this country, in the history of this country, really, and not at least not for some time when it comes down to immigration tactics. We've seen getting picked up off the street. We've seen people being picked up while they're at their work. I don't think that there is one person in this country that has not been affected by immigration crackdowns. Um, Quite honestly, I know that we've got some videos of showing some of those things where immigration has really just kind of been a real hit. I don't know if we've got those. If we don't, we can. Okay. So as you can see, like we've seen ICE tactics. We've seen them coming into to cities, into towns. We've seen them coming in and just really kind of accosting people off the street. We've also seen bystanders get involved more so than I think that we have ever seen in any other time. Bystanders that wouldn't normally get involved have been involved. And so I'm going to kind of kick this back to my panel here and tell me what have you guys experienced, and what's your guys' take on this? I mean, I know that there is a variant of mixed emotions. I think that there needs to be some level of reform in this country, but what level of reform that is, you know, that may not be as intense as what we are seeing. But what do you guys think?
Well, personally, I think what we're seeing is an overstretch of power. I think that there is a certain level of due process, and whether you believe that people should or should not be here, the way that it's being handled is not unlike things we've seen before in history, unfortunately, and history is doomed to repeat itself if you don't learn from it. And I think that's what we're starting to see here.
How about you, Richard? What are you thinking? Like inside of the realm of where you're at, I know that you're down south. Have you seen a number? I know in the DC area here, we've seen an increased presence of a lot of federal agencies. However, I know that in other smaller towns, rural communities, they have also seen an uptick. Is that what you're also seeing down there as well?
I have not seen any, in fact, ICE officers or any of those things going on here where I am. Although I'm certain that it happens, it's widespread, and although I understand immigration has become a problem, but it is it is it is beyond me as to how these people, the officers that call themselves ICE, who have, by the way, the they were set aside funds, more than the FBI and all of the CIA put together. So that kind of tells you what the plan is here in terms of the largesse, the multitude, the hugeness of this ICE thing that is going to take place. And yeah, more will be revealed.
The funding for this is actually increased majorly, Richard. I know
Major.
that is a thing that is quite dizzying, and I've found also that there's been a large amount of deputization inside of ICE as well. And where they're going into other agencies, they're pulling people in, and they're telling them pretty much, you're a sworn law enforcement agent, you're going to have to come work for us right now. And quite honestly, I have a problem with that. I have a problem with that in a whole, as a whole. I feel as though that we're pulling agents from in a time where we really do need security. And for that, I can say that the president and the Republican Party is not incorrect by stating we need to take a look at how we do things, and how we've done things have been pretty laxed for some time. However, my biggest concern is that we're also going to pull away from things that, quite honestly, need it. And without those agencies with their full staffing, we find we're going to run into issues. And we've seen this time and time again when agencies run out of things, out of not just things, but just individuals working as agents and funding, as well as support staff, that incidents happen and occur. We've seen it within the FAA where they have lost staffing numbers, and we've seen an increased amount of incidents over time within the FAA. And I do fear that is something we really need to look at overall. I don't know. What do you guys think about that as well?
Yeah. I mean, I think I would say, just starting back as far back as 2020, when we started seeing a real unionization of our country and our citizens coming together and fighting for what we believe politically. I think since then you've heard the discourse around defunding the police, putting more money back into social programs, giving communities the support they really need to be able to support themselves and make better decisions. But unfortunately, I'm a firm believer that desperate people make poor decisions, and sometimes you only have bad choices. And I think what we're starting to see is this funnel of money into law enforcement, power enforcement, and ICE, and rather than giving the support we need to our communities to be able to make these good choices and do what's best for themselves, we are seeing punishments and people getting reprimanded and consequences for people who just need help. And yeah.
I definitely agree. I mean, like, there's a lot when you look at it. There is a whole lot that you have to look at when it to what we do systemically, and that does bring up a very valid point where we are treating a symptom, and we're treating a problem. If, as anyone would know, you go to the doctor, and the doctor will tell you that you will want to treat the problem and not just treat the symptoms. If you're sick, The doctor's going to say, I'm going to give you antibiotics that's going to treat this specific thing. And you don't always get antibiotics because it's not necessarily the thing that you need. The problem with immigration is that we are not treating the problem. We are treating the symptoms that are of the problem. By sending everyone out, they're just coming back. And yes, we have strengthened our borders, and we are catching more and more as they're coming over the border, but they're still coming back. There's only so many that you're going to catch. And for that, I think that we really truly need to look at what's systemically wrong that's causing large amounts of immigration. We need to look at how can we, as the nation that is the best on the land, be able to support other nations grow that will foster growth within their own communities to keep them from coming in illegally. And I think that that's truly where we are not going right when it comes to immigration. I think that we are taking a very ism approach to immigration where we are not supporting outside nations, and that's a very dangerous approach to be when you are the strongest nation in the world. And quite honestly, that is one of the things that I think this country as a whole needs to work on. And Richard, I know that you may have some input on that one as well. If you have any input on that.
I do have input on this, which is it confounds me in terms of how do we begin to understand masked men, right, not identifying themselves in the political climate that we're living in presently for the last few years, for whatever reason. We don't know who these people are that are approaching us. And I say us because any one of us can be a target of their approach, right? And as we've heard over and over again, people with documentation, hey, I'm a legal citizen, and they just get carted away, and nobody knows where they get carted away to until several days, months later, however it works. I mean, there's got to be a way to fix the system so that it can work. It definitely, in my opinion, is not working. You can't have, anonymous people approaching other people, whether they're immigrants or naturalized citizens or citizens of this country. You can't have people with masks on and no kind of identifying them as a law enforcement official other than the word ICE behind, on their back or something. Anybody can outfit themselves in that manner. And again, because of the political crisis that the climate that we have, we just don't know. So that's very concerning to me as a United States citizen.
Yeah, I definitely agree. There's a lot of just uncertainty when it comes to ICE coming into communities. Be it they be masked, be it they're unidentified, they're hopping out of vehicles, and most of these vehicles are not marked, and they're frightening towns and communities all over the country. And no one's immune from that. I mean, we've all had personal experiences where we've even may have had some folks that we know that may have been taken by ICE. I know that I actually personally myself know a few people that have been picked up while just doing their job. And we find that time and time again, while folks are just doing their job, they're being picked up, they're being taken. And I really believe that we really need to look at the systemic approach to what is going wrong. But we're not doing that top down in the communities as a whole either. And I know, Jess, that you and I come from similar backgrounds when it comes to psychology. And so really we know that you can't just attack an issue. You have to look at the entire issue and all of the mitigating circumstances that cause the issue before you can attack a problem. And to even try to make any approach to make anything better. I don't know if you've got any input to that.
I personally think that the the personal concept, you can't pour from an empty cup, works for a government as well. One of the things that you said is that how do we contribute to these other countries to make it so that they're okay in their own countries and people don't want to come here? Yet I'm also hearing you say, we're the greatest country. I personally have some opinions about that. I'm not sure that America's quite as great as we think it is. But investing back in our own communities is going to be the thing. I mean, yeah, it's going to be more attractive and more people are probably going to come, but we simultaneously have a poverty crisis. We have people who are unhoused. We have all sorts of issues here. And understandably, people are getting upset because there's not enough to go around. Meanwhile, we're cutting funding for the programs that are supporting those people, adding funding to aggressively removing the folks that are coming to our country after we're saying, hey, we have the best one out here. We're getting offended that they want a piece of the pie. I think really what we need to do is focus on taking care of us on our own. And when we do that, there's going to be plenty to share because we are a country of people who are really living the American dream. We have the business owners. We have people who are innovative and creative. And if we just support those people, it's going to multiply. And then it's the concerns of, well, what if somebody comes over? That's fine. We have plenty to share. But when it comes to really addressing the root of the problem, I really believe that it comes down to supporting the communities that we already have. And even personally, I mean, there has been ICE agents in my town at least 3 times over the last 2 months, and in neighboring towns countless times. I mean, it is directly impacting the community that I live in, and it is alarming.
But yeah, I definitely agree. It is alarming. It is alarming the way that they're doing this, the way that things are going on, the way that they're coming into towns. They're pulling people out, and they're just grabbing them. They're grabbing off the street, and you don't know. And then what's happening with the families is just completely and totally disgusting to me, honestly. We're taking families, we're splitting them up, and we're throwing people into prisons in which they have committed no other crime other than either their visa ran up or they entered illegally, and we are treating the children just as bad, and they have done nothing. They were born into this situation. But you are 100% correct. We need to be investing in the communities. We need to be investing in communities as a whole. We have not invested in communities for quite some time. I don't even remember really, as a kid, large community investment. And I remember the term that we used to hear all the time growing up was, it takes a village. But I think the village has left, and I think that we need to figure out how to get that village back. However, I do believe that the American spirit as a whole is still there. I do believe that we have the ability to be the greatest. I know that we are one of the greatest currently still. We may not be the absolute top, but it's kind of like the spirit of capitalism. There are times where you slip, but you find your way back to the top. And I think that we can do that. I think that, the American spirit can do that. I think that, as time goes, I think the voice will be heard. But that's also going to come down to the elections. It's going to come down to who is in office, because we really can't do anything if the people in office don't want to do anything about it. And, one of the things we will talk about is this gerrymandering effort in Texas. But when we come back from the break, we'll kind of get into that. But we're going to talk about the gerrymandering. We're going to talk about all of those, what is truly happening and where is our voice, so that we can start getting into these communities and start figuring out how we can make things better. But yeah, when we get from the break, we'll go from there. Welcome back to guys to Capital Discourse. I'm your host Dakota. I'm here with Jess and here with Richard. We're getting into the topic now, talking about the election efforts, the 2026 midterm elections that will be coming up, and then also a lot of people have heard the word gerrymandering out there, and also they've coined the term as Texas, where Texas is looking to redraw their districts in an effort to pick up more seats in the House of Representatives. And I know that is one thing that has been talked about in both the Democratic parties, but also the Republican parties as well, equally. And we see an equal amount of gerrymandering in both states. And the Supreme Court has ruled, as long as the efforts of gerrymandering is not in an effort to quell any type of race disparity, it is legal. If it is purely political, it is legal. And that's kind of the reality that we live in at this point, is that they're going to sell everything as this is political. And this is how they're going to do it. And we know that the Republican Party has looked to draw new maps inside of Texas to pick up those 5 seats. But we've also heard an equally stark response from the governor of California, who said that if Texas does it, we're going to do it too, and we're going to squeeze everybody out. And I fear that is going to cascade into a world where no one's voice is truly being heard. And I believe that the maps were created, and the way that the census is carried out needs to be looked at as an overhaul. Overall, the census in itself is something that is required every 10 years. And the last time we had census was in 2020. And I think some of you guys might remember during COVID that people were coming around, they were putting leaflets in the door while we were on lockdown, trying to get everybody to do the census. I know that a number of states picked up some seats and some lost some seats. I believe California was one of the ones that lost a couple districts, and Texas picked up a couple. And that just means that more people were living in that area during that time. Now, the way that the census is counted, it is not just amongst American citizens. It is among all people living in that area at that time. Everyone is counted. Doesn't matter if they're citizens or not. Now, I know that Donald Trump, the president, has requested that we look at that and that we look at that law, and he has asked for the census to be done again before the 2026 election, in effort to, number one, not count everyone in the country, but count those who are just American citizens. And quite honestly, I think that is frightening and scary. I believe we have some footage where Donald Trump is being asked about that very question, what we can do in Texas.
On Texas, how many more seats do you want the Republicans to draw?
5.
And then what if California, New York, Illinois, and other blue states?
Yeah, well, that's okay too, but 5. I think we get 5. And there could be some other states. We're going to get another 3 or 4 or 5 in addition. Texas would be the biggest one, and
So
that'll be 5.
Are you calling them for a complete redrawing of the congressional map ahead of next year?
Just a very simple redrawing. We pick up 5 seats.
And
But we have a couple of other states where we'll pick up seats also.
And what if that causes primary?
I mean, first up, there's no very simple redrawing of a map. You just can't pick up the map and redraw it. I don't know. Where are you at on this one, Jess and Richard? Like, you just can't pick up the map and just redraw it. Like that takes years to plan. You just can't do it.
Well, not only redraw it, but also redraw it in the middle of nowhere, right? The census, they're there for a reason. Right. And then the drawing of the maps after that happens are there for a reason. Now we're corrupting the whole system and changing it such that none of that counts anymore.
Oh, yeah. But I mean, like, be all of the system aside. The president has dictated now that we're going to pick up the map. We're just going to redraw it. we're going to redraw it right now. We're going to do it now because, that can be done. But again, let me hear what you have to say about this just before we really get into this. Because
this seems just like very consistent for him, going back to the election in 2020 and 2021 when we stole the election, or this election was stolen from him, and then the most recent election, the questionable votes, and whether there's question on whether he truly earned this election or not. And now he's obsessing over votes again, saying, oh, we just need 5 more seats so I can get all of the right votes. It feels very much like, truly reading into him, I'm just concerned. It feels like he there's something in him that is aware of the fact that there is not support, and he needs to manipulate he needs to manipulate what he can in order to get the support he has. And yeah, sure, this is a political strategy. He's not the only politician who has done this type of thing, but it is a consistent pattern of behavior. And at this point, I mean, you say that gerrymandering is okay as long as it doesn't directly discriminate against race, but there are so many intersections of race and gender and sexual orientation, and you name it. I know that's not all of the things that we're talking about right now, but there is no vacuum where it is only race. And so you can turn anything that is racially motivated into something that's just politics by focusing on these other intersections that these people are a part of. And I am concerned. I don't think that it's a great idea.
I mean,
and I think it's just one more way that he's using the system to manipulate.
I mean, yeah, because it's just a horrible idea. It's a horrible idea all the way around. I mean, really, if you think about it, like the president is up in the middle of a legislative session, and while they're trying to figure out the budget. I mean, let's be real. Right now, while they're still trying to figure out how we're going to keep the government open in September, has dictated that we're going to go ahead and figure out also how we're going to draw the map along the way too. And then we're going to also, run down the street and chew gum and play football too, because, we could do that. Well, no, it's a UFC fight as well. But really, we need to look at what is happening as a whole. The Republican Party is scared. Let's just call a spade for a spade. They have pissed off and alienated every part of their demographic at least once in the last 30 days. Not just the 30 days, not just 60 days, at least once. Every demographic that voted for them, they have pissed off, angered, or deported. And so now we're in a situation where they're just desperate. They're desperate to figure out how we're going to redraw the maps, how we're going to hold on to power, because they have such a slim majority. You're looking at towns like Washington, D.C., L.A., Philly, Atlanta, where they're sending in and federalizing their police and also sending in the National Guard. D.C. is in a very particularly unique fight because they're fighting for home rule, because it is not a part of any state and is not under that level of protection. They want to take away home rule, and they're going to say that it is unsafe. It's unsafe to do so. But in reality, what the Republican Party doesn't want out of that is for D.C. to become a state. If D.C. becomes a state, then it gets 2 senators, and then there's the Senate. Because, let's be real, I don't see Washington, D.C. voting Republican anytime soon. And so, then you have 2 guaranteed Democratic seats in the Senate, in a Senate where it is split. And the only way for them to win in any type of vote is for the vice president of the United States to come down and cast his tie-breaking vote. But overall, the Republican Party is scared. They're running scared. They're running out of options, and they know that they're coming up on a midterm election, and the speaker's trying to figure out how to hold on to power. But and I know that you guys are in different parts of the country as well, so you guys give me your unique view. But down here in the district, we see it, and it's not pretty.
Well, it's not just seen in DC, it's seen globally. I mean, we've been added to the Human Rights Watch list. the United States, like it is almost unbelievable, except I'm living it every day. And we're not the only ones. We're not the only ones who see it. And you're right. The Republican Party is scared. So should everyone be. Like, we should all be concerned. And I think we've got so caught up in this left versus right conversation. And I think what we need to do is take a step back, because when I talk to people across the aisle, I recognize a lot of times we share the same values, we just prioritize them differently. It's not that we don't care about those things. It's what is most affecting my life in this very moment. I need to protect myself. And if we zoom out a little bit, I think we really need to look at top versus bottom in terms of like money and not money. It is all political,
Absolutely.
but keeping us divided into two-party system is going
Absolutely.
nowhere.
Absolutely. I mean, you're 100% right. You know, my alma mater is Penn State, and quite honestly, the time I spent in Pennsylvania is some of the most formative and fun, and you know, I got to meet some really interesting folks up there. But also know that the way that they look at things is very unique. They're a very blue collar state, but at the same time, you know, they look at social world, their social politics is kind of more on the liberal side, although they're fiscally conservative. Trust me, you do not want to go against Pennsylvania and say, hey, let's spend a lot of money. They're not going to do it. But what I can say is that they are good people. They're great people. It's fun. They're fun to be around. They make a mean chicken corn soup. I know that I need to get some of that soon here. Farm show's coming up. But overall, you know, when it comes to their politics, their policies, they're as unique in itself. And then when you're looking at how that they do politics and how they look at their budget, how they look at how they do social programs, they're very, very community driven. It's a very community driven, and I believe that we as a country should really kind of look at that. You know, the communities there are little towns, and everybody knows everybody, and you could be in any part of those little towns and they know you. But you know, that being said, we have that in multiple other areas throughout the country, and I think that is really what is going to dictate how this fight comes down in the end. You know, the communities are going to have to reach up, stand up. They're going to have to reach and vote. But and this is the most important part when it comes to these little communities, is that you can't just vote in the midterms. You can't just vote in the general election. You have to vote in every election, whether it is the town supervisor or whether it is the school board chairman, because these guys, these school board chairmen, these town supervisors, these guys are the guys that become the next senators. They become the next congressmen that dictate your laws. If you didn't like them when they were in your little town, don't vote them in, because then they're going to wind up congressmen eventually, and then they're going to do things that you just don't disagree with. You know, so if you don't like them, you don't like what they're doing, don't vote them in as the town supervisor just cuz. You got to get involved in your communities, and I really think that is really truly what is hurting right now overall, is that we're not involved in communities as a whole. In this country, we're not involved in the planning and the prep. We're not involved in how we make ourselves better. We're just involved when it bothers us. You know, and that's kind of where it is when it comes to the immigration, when it comes to you know, welfare, when it comes to taxes, all of it. We don't care until it bothers us. But the problem is, when it bothers us, it's too late. You can't really do much about it, at least not now. You have to wait to the next iteration to kind of fix it. And that's kind of where we are right now, is we got to wait to that next iteration. And I know that, you know, you guys have definitely have a take on that as well.
Absolutely. You know, we're at a place in our history, man, where we've never been, obviously, right, and such is history, but nobody's really paying attention. And I say nobody, meaning very few people pay attention to politics, right? We have better things to do with our time in life. But in the climate that we're in now, our country may never look like what we once knew moving forward. And to me, that's red flags. Like, we should be interested in what's going on. We should be ready to stand up for what we believe. We, the people, to my knowledge, still makes a difference, right? Or does it? Are we, the people, really the ones who speak and are heard, or are we being silenced on a daily basis? And that is something that we need to be really up on, because we are being silenced. You know, my Jess had mentioned before, communities. um we've cut off support to the communities to give it to people who don't need any support whatsoever. That if they only paid a fair share of taxes, come on, let's get into this, right? Their fair share of taxes, like all of that other stuff for the poor and our communities who are suffering so much, we wouldn't have to bat an eye. Nobody would be worried about affording that stuff. But here we are, Robin Hood, taking from the poor and giving to the rich. This is where we are in the United States of America. This is
Yeah,
how far we are in the United States of America. And, it's unfortunate. We're watching it play out before our eyes. And we better stand up to it, because if we don't, it's too late. Just like Dakota said, it's too late. What are you crying for now? You didn't do anything when you could. That's the
I largely
reality.
agree with you there, Richard. And I think to Dakota's point, it's important to vote. It's important to vote for the big ones, the smaller ones, and all of the special elections. But what the theme that I'm hearing is that this all comes back to money. Money rules
Of
the world.
course.
We live in a capitalist society. And what that means is you vote every day with your dollar. When you're spending money, I know it's cliche, people blow it off, but
Yeah.
when you're spending your money, you are giving either a corporation or a small business the power to then either lobby their government or spend it in their community. I personally, until I owned a small business and made my own money and was self-employed, didn't fully understand the impact of this. But it's true, when you put your money with a small business or you put your money with a company, you are giving them the ability to do the same thing. And they're going to put the money where it furthers their best interest. The big corporations are worried about their bottom line. So are the small businesses, but those small businesses are worried about feeding their children, getting school supplies, making sure grandma has her money, or not her money, that too, but her medication. And all of these things are going to be inspiring just the right person who can step forward and lead the community. But if maybe that small business owner is well recognized in the community, they'd be a great politician moving forward. We don't want the long lasting politicians. We want the new faces, the fresh ideas. But if we're not supporting them, if we're not funding them, if we're not putting our money where it really matters to us, then it's harder to get there. It's going to be difficult for us to achieve that. I know, Dakota, you had some other ideas, I'm sure, on this topic.
Oh yeah, absolutely. No, and when it comes down to money is cash is king. It does what it does, and it will do what it always does. However, I also believe too that we need to look at the rules top down when it comes to how we do things as a country. I mean, it's one thing to be a capitalistic approach, and for that I'm all for. I'm all for the capitalistic approach. I am a small business owner myself, and so yeah, I enjoy it. I enjoy having the ability to be a capitalist and do the things that are. But when we look at the government as a whole, we've got these lifelong politicians. These guys are getting in here. They're staying in there until they're 900 years old. I mean, the median age is only going up in the United States Congress, both the House and in the Senate. We just had an 80-something-year-old president, and now we have another, octogenarian running the country. So we really are at a point where we need to look at not only how we send the money, how we're distributing the money, how companies are doing what, and how all of that in works, but we also need to look at, the age. We need to look at where are the ideas coming from and where are their priorities. I mean, a 40-something-year-old individual is not going to have the same priorities as a 90-year-old man. It's going to be completely different. And they're going to have two completely different styles. But in general, I think that we as a whole need to be more involved. I find myself frightened when I hear that folks they're not bothered with the news. They're not bothered with knowing what's going on. And I think that is something that is very important. One level or another, you need to have that level of involvement side of media, and we don't have that. We haven't had that, and for that, something has to change there, because unless the youth become more engaged in what we're doing, then we're not going to really absolutely and truly know, or make any improvements, make any improvements at all, and that's the problem. The youth are not learning what we learned when we were in school. And turning back the hands of time just to make everybody learn the way we did is not the answer either. And that's been common. The answer is so they're not doing the way we did it, so let's turn back the hands of time and do it this way. It's not the same. It's not the same, and it's not going to be the same. We have to adjust our tactics. We have to adjust our measures and the way that we do things to make it work. If we know that something doesn't work this way, why are we going to keep going down the same route and try to make it work? We have to find a new way to make it work, and that's really what it comes down to. And we're going to have a lot of discussions on this over time. We're going to have a ton of discussions. And we're going to have guests in here, and I think that this forum here will be one of the forums in which we will, as a whole, be able to bring some restorative justice to the press, even. And that's another rabbit hole that we don't really want to go down right now, because we'll be here a while. But I really want to be forefront in making sure that we bring the viewer the most up-to-date and most non-biased reality, the most non-biased and realistic approach to information. And we will be doing that here. And so, over the next few months, I invite everybody to tell people to come watch this show, so that they can get the unbiased and real approach to what is going on in this world. Because even inside of media, we see that allegiances and are bought through what is, and so you say the things, the sound bites that match the needs. We're not going to do that here, and so and I invite my hosts to hold that same over the time that we do this. But for that, I think that we're kind of running short on time for today. We will be returning back next week. But before we go, any quick takes, any quick thoughts here, Jess, Richard, on I know we've got a busy week. They're looking at the budget. They're looking at obviously the redistricting, and we're going to be keeping an eye on that throughout the week. And there are a lot of other pieces that are going on here. Any things that you wanted to kind of throw in there before we walk away?
I think we need to remember. Oh, sorry, Richard.
I'm sorry,
I think we need to remember that as the news progresses, we're going to be seeing shocking headlines. It's going to bring up some fear, and making knee-jerk reactions to any of this is not going to be the solution. It is alarming, and we should be alarmed, but that does not mean that we need to make impulsive choices or have impulsive reactions. It's the planned, it's the organized approach that's going to do the best thing. And reaching out and creating our own communities is going to be the best way that we can really further the goals that the communities need. Go ahead, Richard. Sorry.
No, it's okay. In summarizing, one of my favorite old school songs comes to mind. It's Black Sheep, right? And this is what I want to leave the viewers with. It's a simple verse. You can get with this or you can get with that. But if you get with this, well, this is where it's at. We try to be unbiased. We try to be truthful. We try to live here, not in an alternate reality. We live on this planet. We're here now. Let's get it.
Absolutely, I agree. And thank you guys for joining us today. And they said to everyone, please come back 1 p.m. Sundays. Join us again next week. When we will be bringing you the week's rundown of all of the most important things that need to be brought to the table for you. And again, tell your friends and your family. Come and watch. Be a part of the information, because we have to start somewhere. All right, guys. Have a good Sunday. Thanks for tuning in to Capital Discourse.
Let's get it.